Reality Transurfing by Vadim, Zeland. Chapter 9. The Heart and Mind. The soul comes into the world reaching out trustingly with a child's arms. The wind of intention. Everyone is born an individual, unique creature that later develops a personality. Thoughts, knowledge, convictions, habits, even character gradually build up like layers of plaque. These parts of the self obviously do not come out of nowhere, and yet what is there of us originally? Could we all really have begun as a completely clean sheet? Just try for a moment being a completely clean sheet. Close your eyes and stop the mental chatter. If you contemplate the blackness, you will manage not to think for a short period of time. For a moment, your mind will be completely empty, and yet you do not stop being yourself in this moment. The activity of the mind is temporarily halted, but a sense of the integrity of the self remains. How do you explain that you are in fact you? An awareness of personality, identity comes. How do you explain that you are in fact you? An awareness of personal identity usually comes from one's position in society. Yet imagine for a moment that the social environment has disappeared and that you are just hanging in the empty space of the cosmos. There is no earth, no sun, no past, and no future. Just black emptiness. Everything else has disappeared. All that remains is you. So, what of your former personality? All knowledge and thoughts, manners, habits, desires, fears, character, and pursuits were dependent on your previous environment. What would remain of the self? It is difficult to discuss this question within the framework of reason, and yet a discussion on the eternal theme of the existence of the soul goes beyond the scope and purpose of this book. It would also take up a lot of time and lead to nothing. Neither is the issue of the existence of the human soul Neither is the issue of the existence of the human soul of particular importance to the aims of transurfing. It may suit you start this whole paragraph over. It is difficult to discuss this question within the framework of the reason. Start over. It is difficult to discuss this question within the framework of reason, and yet a discussion on the eternal theme of the existence of the soul goes beyond the scope and purpose of this book. It would also take up a lot of time and lead to nothing. Neither is the issue of the existence of the human soul of particular importance to the aims of transurfing. It may suit you to believe in the soul, or as you might prefer to call it, the subconscious. You may or may not agree with the concept of the eternal nature of the soul, but it is inarguable that the human psyche consists of the conscious and the unconscious. We previously agreed that all conscious experience would be referred to as the mind, and all unconscious experience as related to the heart or soul. For the sake of simplicity and practical purposes, we need only to draw a rough distinction between the heart and the mind by suggesting that feelings relate to the former and thoughts to the latter. States of elation, openness, and inspiration, as well as oppression and depression, depend on the inner feelings of the heart. The mind is entirely in the power of the pendulums which impose limiting perceptions and beliefs. The extent of human freedom is narrowed to what pendulums will permit. This may explain why people tend to identify their position in the world mistakenly as servant or master. From the point of view of transurfing, neither of these positions is correct, for man is nothing more than a drop that flies in from the ocean for a brief moment. Sea spray that forms when an ocean wave crashes serves as a good illustration of birth and death. A drop of spray that has become separated from the waves cannot experience oneness with the ocean or receive energy from it. The individual drop of spray thinks that it exists separately and has nothing in common with the ocean until such time as it falls back into the waters and its awareness of oneness is restored. At this point, the drop merges with the ocean into a single whole, for in essence they are made up of the same element, water. An individual particle of water can take various forms. It can be a drop, a snowflake, an icicle, or a cloud of steam. The form differs from the essence. The form differs, but the essence is the same. The particle does not remember that it is the same as the ocean. It believes that it exists in the form of a drop, a snowflake, or a cloud of steam, and that the ocean is made up of waves, foam, spray, iceberg, currents, and calm. It is very difficult for the particle to see the common essence inherent in all these external manifestations of water. Despite being familiar, the essential communality remains elusive. Despite being familiar, the essential communality remains elusive. Biblical texts on the subject reveal the truth colored by the distortion of the mind. The statement that God created man in his image and likeness is true. Only this truth is normally distorted. God can take any form, but his essence does not lie in the fact that he has a head, 2 hands, and 2 feet. If you compare God with the ocean and the individual with a drop, both have the same essence, which is water. According to the testimony of people who have had near-death experiences, when death is close by, the soul experiences an inexplicable serenity and bliss that comes from a feeling of oneness with the cosmos. In a sense, the drop has returned to the ocean and rediscovered the awareness of its true essence, knowing that it consists of the same substance as the ocean. In that moment, the entire energy of the ocean passes through the drop. Throughout the history of human civilization, man has always sought a feeling of connectedness with universe. In pursuit of spiritual perfection, all religious schools have ultimately striven for the same goal of reaching enlightenment. of experiencing a sense of oneness with the world, of dissolving into the ocean of energy, losing awareness of the self as a separate essence. An enlightened master has all the energy of the universe at their disposal. They see no fundamental difference between themselves and infinity. Their thought energy enters into resonance. Their thought energy enters into resonance with the energy of the ocean. Then the intention of the enlightened becomes identical to outer intention. The powerful and unfathomable force that rules the world. When a kite is the right shape, it will climb up through the air streams. In the same way, the wind of outer intention lifts a person up and carries them through the field to a sector that corresponds to the quality of their thought energy. In order to travel purposefully through the space, you have to be able to feel the wind of outer intention as clearly as you feel currents of air or water. Until a person becomes conscious of their essence and the nature of their oneness with the ocean, the workings of outer intention will be beyond their grasp. We are not going to set ourselves the task of reaching enlightenment, for this would be too hard a task, and in any case it is not essential to the realization of your personal goals. You do not have to hide away in Tibet or meditate. You do not have to hide away in Tibet and meditate. Transurfing provides a loophole which allows you to compel outer attention. You do not have to hide away in Tibet and meditate. Transurfing provides a loophole which allows you to compel outer intention to your personal will. To a small degree, perhaps, but nonetheless enough for you to fulfill your desires. The principle of the loophole is relatively simple. The mind has will, but it is not capable of ruling outer intention. The heart, on the other hand, can experience oneness with the outer intention, but has no will, flying through the alternative space like an uncontrolled kite. Achieving unity between heart and mind is enough to bring outer intention under the sway of your will. Let me repeat that. Achieving unity between heart and mind is enough to bring outer intention under the sway of your will. Creating a harmonious connection between heart and mind is a difficult but nonetheless realistically achievable task. As we saw earlier, the effect of outer intention is quite tangible when it comes to working against the will of the conscious mind and materializing our worst expectations. What we need to do now is to understand how our best expectations can be realized. In the chapter on intention, we define the key conditions for mastering outer intention: awareness, reducing importance, and letting go of the goal. Soon you will discover new secrets of transurfing which will open more doors onto the mysterious world of outer intention.